This week on the campaign trail saw one political leader, the leader of the Liberal Party, get constant questions about links to China, and another leader, the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, drawing huge crowds, but it's not translating into votes necessarily, certainly not seeing the results in the polls. And the NDP leader, Jagmeet Singh, well, we don't know what he's up to. Hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Warren Kinsella and Brian Lilley. Okay, Brian, you are in the halls of power. In the background is Parliament Hill. You're in Ottawa, and we are now week three into this campaign. I've kind of just given that little teaser out there about what we've seen, sort of the stories emerge from this week on the political campaign, and certainly from Mark Carney, questions around China don't seem to be. They're not letting them go.
No, if you remember last week, he started off the week facing questions about China because his candidate, Paul Chang, was under criticism for encouraging people to kidnap a political rival and hand him over to the Chinese consulate for bounty money. Generally, that's frowned upon. But it took Carney 4 days to get rid of Chang, and a couple days of questions after that, and then it goes away. And then Monday, the site task force comes out with the news that, well, China's targeting the election again, and they say that China is targeting Mark Carney. Now that makes it sound that, well, they're doing something bad to him. No, they're supporting him.
Mhm.
The bureaucrat said it was positive and negative stories, but then all the journalists at the news conference said, well, you only gave us positive ones. Where are the negative? Oh, we don't want to give you those. So
Mm.
a bit bizarre going on. And then the Globe had a story about Carney having met with this Chinese front group for the United Front and Works Department. And he snapped at them and said, you can't believe everything you read in the Globe and Mail. You should check your sources. Wow. So the
Where have we
China
heard that before?
Yeah, the story in the Globe is false. Yeah, the China stuff is clearly irritating. He was very grumpy with journalists over that, just like the constant questions. CTV in particular has been going hard at him on his taxes. I had my piece this week saying, we don't know where he files his personal taxes because when I asked them, they wouldn't answer. They just said, Mark Carney has followed all the rules. Okay, but what country are you filing your taxes in? You got three passports and a lot of links to New York City. So he's getting a lot of tough questions, doesn't seem to be impacting him in the polls at all. Every polling firm now has a significant lead for the Liberals with just over 2 weeks to go.
So, Warren, you've done enough political campaigning. This is one of those sorts of issues that sort of was brought up during the leadership race. There's questions swirling around Mark Carney and business investments, and he's not really been vetted very well. It doesn't seem to be it doesn't seem to matter very much, as Brian is pointing out. The Liberals seem to be solidifying their vote well ahead of the Conservatives. Whether those people come out and vote, we'll see. But that said, doesn't seem to be hurting very much. But I'm wondering, from your perspective, why is this story hounding him so much?
Well, there's a bunch of stories, and by the way, I apologize for laughing, but Brian's line about it's frowned upon encouraging China to kidnap your opponent it just made me laugh. And there's an example. So you got the China thing, right? Not just his own links and Brookfield, but also his candidates. We've got another one this morning. We've got his holdings, right? And also we've got him apparently. It looked very much like he accused Israel of genocide this week at a rally, and he hasn't explained that one either.
Well,
So
he did come out and say he will not politicize that term because he was asked about that Thursday morning and said, I'm not going to use that term. But he made it sound like it. You're right the other day.
Mm.
anyway, there's Brian Lilley defending Mark Carney. But anyway, so I'm not going to defend him. I think he's got a lot to answer for. However, as you point out correctly, Adrian, it hasn't moved the needle in the polling. Now every single pollster has got him ahead, either 3 points with Main Street or 15 points with Ecos, which I think is wackadoodle. I think the most accurate number is probably what our pollster that we use, Leger, has got, which is about 7 points, which is a big win. So this stuff, it's not working. And Lawrence Martin wrote in the Globe and Mail yesterday, it's worth reminding people about this. The Conservative Party has run an error-free campaign. They haven't made any mistakes. He talked about how they've run a very good campaign, but it hasn't moved the needle. And Carney's got all these mistakes, and you can see conservative partisans getting frustrated. Why is this happening? It's the Trump factor. Trump is the ballot question. It's not fair to Poilievre. It's a gift to Carney, but it is the reality. I was in Washington this week, and the biggest factor in world politics, not just American politics, is Donald Trump, and he's really affecting the outcome here.
Yeah, Brian, just on that, the conservatives hovering in and around 38% in a normal election, they'd be staring down potentially a majority government based on how our political, how the voting goes in this country. It's just because the NDP is down to a meager single digits and is nowhere to be found. The bloc has collapsed in Quebec. But let's pivot away from that side of the polling, and I want to discuss it in this context. And Morna, I want to sort of start with you on this one. There is no question on the ground the support for the Conservatives is extraordinary. There's enthusiasm, there's excitement. Pierre Poilievre actually looks like he's having fun at his rallies, which is interesting to watch, whereas Carney's looks sort of somber and boring. But a massive turnout in Edmonton, around 15,000 supporters. We see a big rally in Brampton. But this isn't necessarily translating into support or change in the polls, but there is an enthusiasm that the Conservatives are enjoying on the ground. How do you see this?
Well, I've written a book about this, which is available still in all fine bookstores, and you guys, I think I've given you copies. Fight the Right. Why is it in Western Europe, in the United States, in Canada, conservatives have a smaller vote base, and so-called progressives have a bigger vote base, but conservatives win elections, and Donald Trump is evidence of this, and Stephen Harper, and so on, because their vote is much more committed. It's passionately involved in their choice, and that's what we're seeing at these rallies. Is people are coming out because they believe in Pierre Poilievre and they believe in the conservative option. We're not seeing that with Mark Carney because, again, even though he's got notionally a bigger vote base, they're just not as committed to their choice. And every single pollster has shown that too. Is the Liberal vote is a mile wide, but it is, to use the cliche, a bit an inch deep. So that is why the debates next week are critically important for Poilievre. He's a better debater than Carney. Actually, all the candidates in Liberal leadership were better debaters than Carney. He needs to, bring the heat. He needs to bring the fire and make those debates as important as the debates were between Mulroney and Turner in 84 and 88. The 88 debate, Turner almost won because he was so effective against Mulroney over this type of question, the role of the United States in our lives. But I think that Poilievre, it's his to lose those debates. Is it enough to bridge 7-point gap? I don't know. I guess we're going to find out.
Brian, you've covered so many political campaigns, and certainly what we're seeing is extraordinary. Prime Minister Harper introducing Pierre Poilievre in Edmonton, but we know that the vote in Alberta is likely going to go blue pretty much everywhere. You need to see those sorts of rallies if the Conservatives want to have a shot at this in the 905 area in Ontario. But on that enthusiasm, on that energy, I think the downside for the Liberals is I don't think people are stampeding to the doors to support them, whereas they will, like conservative supporters, will literally crawl over broken glass to make sure they vote conservative.
Well, it depends on what Donald Trump does between now and April 28th. If he comes out with anything that's seen as an attack, watch for a lot of motivated people. We've
Mm.
talked about it before. The people that have moved over to Kearney, it's people who are looking for safety and security. Polyev is drawing people that want to, unleash Canada, really build our economy in a different way. And the people that are being attracted to Kearney are like, I'm really afraid. I'm scared. What's happening to my retirement savings? Is my country going to be taken over? And they just want some stability. If Trump has another eruption, then they will stampede. If Pierre does really well in the debates, then maybe he's able to motivate more people to switch and to get out there. Campaigns still matter. I've watched things change quicker. 2006, it changed very quickly. Liberals leading the whole time. A couple of things happened just after Christmas. It changed. 2015, Justin Trudeau came from third to first in a matter of a couple of days after a few events happened. So just like Trump is an event that has upset Poilievre's, perceived path of winning, other things could happen. There could be other events. Without that, without a substantive change, I'm not sure how they pull this off. They need about 75 to 80 seats in Ontario, and right now they're not at that point. They're not on that trajectory. BC, they're doing well. Quebec, they're doing well. They'll grab a few seats in Atlantic Canada. This election will literally come down to Ontario. I know everyone always says that. Last few elections, BC has been the deciding factor. This will be an Ontario vote.
Okay, Warren, I had said right off the top and half jokingly that it's not even worthwhile talking about the NDP because no one knows what they're doing or what they're up to. Singh is doing bizarre things, choices for campaigning. Okay, let's give them 30 seconds. What's going on with the NDP?
They're dying on the vine. They're in big trouble. And Singh, I think, was hurt by his Axis of Weasels deal with Justin Trudeau, propping up Trudeau when Trudeau was so unpopular. So that hurt him and the NDP brand. And then the Trump factor, if you're a progressive and as you, Brian points out, you're anxious and scared about the future and all that kind of stuff, you're looking for somebody who is going to defend the country. I don't think New Democrats think that Poilievre can't. They just suspect that he or his caucus kind of sympathize with Trump, and that's why they're giving Carney a shot. Nobody knows Carney from a hole in the wall. This guy, he, as you pointed out off the top, he's completely new to Canadian politics, but it's extraordinary what's happened. From the start of the year, just a few weeks ago, not that long ago, 30-point lead nearly for the Conservative Party, and now we've got a race where the Liberals look like they're winning. I've never seen anything like it, and it's history in the making.
Okay, Brian, last word to you then. For the NDP, we talked about that. We're going to talk further about the debates next week, but what does Singh have to do to even maintain party status at this point?
Find a pulse, find a reason for campaigning. Look, he's a known quantity. Carney is not. I'm looking at that poster behind Warren right now, and I'm remembering the 2008 U.S. presidential election. Barack Obama was much the same way. People knew a little bit about him, but Obama won by a landslide in that one. Why? People just painted on to Obama whatever they wanted. That's what he was. And a lot of that is happening with Mark Carney, which is why NDP voters are going for a Goldman Sachs banker, a central banker, a guy who ran one of the biggest investment firms, who, people in countries around the world are speaking out and saying, oh, Brookfield's not very good to us. Brookfield's bad for the poor. Brookfield was union busting for benefits. And you Democrat voters are still going to them. It's all very bizarre. Jagmeet Singh has played this badly. Look, there's been an enthusiasm gap for him for years. He came in very strong when he first took the leadership, but he's not a good campaigner. He's not good at fundraising, and now it's really not delivering the goods. He's getting the result he should because he's not being very good at this.
Well, Canada, are you paying attention yet to the federal election? There is not much time left, but the most important thing happening next week are those debates. Well, like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like us and put some comments in below for us. And of course, go to the torontosun.com. You'll find commentary and coverage there you will not find anywhere else.